In the vast emptiness of space, where stars shone like distant lamps and planets danced in their silent orbits, the ship Sol Invictus cut through the darkness. Its crew was made up of beings from all over the galaxy, but at its core, there was one species that had proven to be more resilient, more ingenious, and above all, more capable than any other: humans. The ship's commander, Eva Skye, a woman with short hair and sharp eyes, watched through the window of the bridge, her gaze fixed on the stars. At 38 years old, she had faced more battles than most captains of other species, and the reason was clear. Humanity had something that others didn't possess: unbeatable determination. Eva wasn't alone. Her team consisted of scientists, engineers, and specialists from different planets. But what united them all was their constant pursuit of innovation, the incredible human ability to overcome any limit, any obstacle. Where other species saw an impasse, humans saw an opportunity. Where others gave in to defeat, humans stood tall. Where others feared the unknown, humans leaped into the abyss with confidence, knowing they could conquer even the unimaginable. "What do we have this time?" Eva asked, her voice serene but with an underlying intensity. Her interlocutor, Vorak, a Xylix alien with dark skin and piercing red eyes, was analyzing data on his screen. He looked at her with a skeptical expression. "Commander, there's an anomaly at the outer limits of the Horath system," Vorak replied, adjusting the ship's controls. "It's something none of us have been able to explain. Unknown energy readings, space-time disturbances, the kind of thing, if it weren't for you, I'd say we should avoid." Eva crossed her arms. It wasn't new that many species in space were distrustful of humanity. For many centuries, humans had been viewed as a fragile species, incapable of defending themselves against the established galactic powers. But all of that changed when humans not only survived the most devastating conflict in the galaxy, but also emerged as an independent and unbeatable force. They had taken the first step into interstellar space, not with fear, but with eager enthusiasm. "Avoiding it is not an option," Eva said with a confident smile. "If there's something to be discovered, we'll discover it. If there's something to defeat, we'll defeat it. We're not known for backing away from challenges." The other crew members, including Hassan, a biologist from Earth, and Yara, a Martian artificial intelligence specialist, nodded in agreement. They knew that the mission of Sol Invictus was more than just exploration. It was an affirmation of what humans were capable of. Eva looked at the hologram of the anomaly blinking in front of her. She could feel the excitement rising inside her. This was the moment they'd been waiting for. A challenge, a mystery, a field where humanity once again would have the chance to prove its superiority. "Let's head over there," Eva said, her eyes gleaming with determination. "Prepare for another test of humanity's ability to face the impossible." "I'm grateful." And with that, the Sol Invictus moved toward the anomaly in the Horath system, where the entire galaxy awaited, curious to see what the humans would do this time. Reverend Gentry disconnected and sat heavily, squinting in the midday sunlight. As the Sol Invictus approached the anomaly, tension on the bridge grew. The ship's navigation systems were experiencing constant interference. Unknown energy signals flickered on the control panels, fluctuating in unpredictable patterns. The crew, accustomed to the most bizarre phenomena, felt an unease that they couldn't explain. Even in the vastness of space, where everything seemed to be a constant challenge, this was different. "Commander, something's not right," said Vorak, his fingers nervously hovering over the controls. "These readings, they're completely outside of any known parameters. Gravity is fluctuating erratically. This is not just a sensor malfunction. Something is distorting space-time around us." Eva turned her gaze to the display. The readings were incomprehensible to most of the crew. Floating gravity, time distortions, chaotic energy. Something was very wrong. something that to other species might be fatal. To humans, it was just another obstacle to be overcome. "We need to prepare for an unconventional entry," Eva said, her voice now more firm. "Yara, analyze the data. We need an entry strategy that minimizes impact on our vital systems. Hassan, you and your biological equipment stay on standby. This could affect our biological systems as well." "Understood, Commander," Yara replied calmly, though the complexity of the situation was clear in her eyes. She started adjusting the ship's AI to accommodate whatever they might face, knowing that even with the latest technology there was no way of predicting what might happen next. "We'll need to make quick adjustments to avoid serious damage." Hassan, meanwhile, seemed calmer than the others, but his eyes were still sharp. He knew what it meant to face the unknown. Humans had learned to live with it. The fear of things unknown never paralyzed them. Instead, it drove them to adapt faster, to find solutions even when everything around them seemed to collapse. "I'm not sure what we're about to face," Hassan murmured, "but I'm ready." Humans have always been good at adjusting to hostile environments. "That's right," Eva nodded. "Adaptability is our greatest strength. We'll find out what's going on here and give it our answer. The galaxy may underestimate humans, but it will never again doubt us." She looked at the vast emptiness before them, feeling the excitement building within her. This was the moment they had been waiting for, a challenge, a mystery. A field where humanity, once again, would have the chance to prove its superiority. "Let's enter the distortion cautiously," Eva commanded, looking directly at Vorak. "Prepare the energy shields, and if necessary, we'll take drastic measures. We won't hesitate. But consider the consequences. Perhaps we can find more humans here." Vorak paused for a moment before responding, his red eyes glued to the controls. "Commander, if something goes wrong, then we adapt," Eva interrupted him firmly, "and we come out victorious." The ship began moving toward the center of the anomaly. As they got closer, the energy readings became even more unstable. Eva watched the screens intently, her mind calculating every risk and every movement. She knew they were about to enter a territory where no other species had dared to go, but humans had never backed away from the unknown. The systems began to tremble. The gravity from the distortion was affecting the ship, pulling it toward a specific point in space. Everyone knew that the next move could be fatal, but Eva didn't hesitate. Humanity had never feared the impossible. "Now," she commanded. The Sol Invictus plunged into the distortion, heading straight for what could either be the key to a new era of exploration or the grave of everyone on board. The Sol Invictus entered the distortion, and the sensation of disorientation was immediate. Gravity around the ship fluctuated unpredictably, causing the crew to be tossed from side to side. The lights flickered, and the systems began to emit incessant alarms. The space ahead seemed to warp and stretch, as if reality itself was being twisted. "Commander, we're being pulled in," Yara said, her voice tense. "The readings are off the charts. We're being dragged toward the center. If we don't stabilize the ship now, we might lose control." "Exit." Eva stood still, her eyes glued to the screen. The energy levels were rising, and the instability was growing exponentially. They were too close now to turn back. "Vorak, help Yara stabilize the ship," Eva ordered. "Hassan, get the biological protocols ready. We don't know how this might affect us biologically." Sec. The Xylix moved quickly, adjusting the ship's systems and speaking with Yara as they tried to reverse the effects of the distortion. Hassan, meanwhile, was busy monitoring the biological readings. Even though he appeared calm, his mind was racing. This wasn't just another mission. This was something far beyond any of their previous experiences. "We've never seen anything like this," Hassan murmured, his eyes scanning the data. "I'm not sure how it will affect us long term." The biological feedback is beyond anything we've encountered. We might be dealing with something that's not just outside our universe. It could be manipulating our very biology. Eva's mind raced. This wasn't just another anomaly. They were venturing into something completely unknown, and no one had ever dared to explore it. But as always, humans didn't shy away from challenges. They faced them head-on. "I don't care what it is," Eva said firmly, her voice unwavering. "We came here for a reason, and we're not leaving until we've uncovered the truth. The human race doesn't back down. We'll adapt to whatever it throws at us." The ship trembled again as the energy waves intensified. The distortion was becoming more chaotic, and the crew could feel the ship straining against the forces around it. But Eva wasn't deterred. The Sol Invictus had faced worse challenges, and its crew was more than capable of handling the impossible. "We'll fight through this," Eva said confidently. "Yara, adjust the stabilizers again. Vorak, we need to make sure we can still control the ship. Hassan, get ready for any biological anomalies." The ship groaned under the pressure, but the team kept working. Every crew member was doing everything they could to keep the Sol Invictus in one piece. Eva knew that they were on the edge of something monumental, but she couldn't afford to hesitate. The time for fear was long past. "Prepare for entry," Eva said, locking eyes with the crew. "We're going straight through, no turning back." The ship surged forward, crossing the threshold of the distortion, and everything around them seemed to shatter. The universe itself stretched and folded, and for a moment it felt like they were outside of space and time altogether. The crew held on, as the world around them became a blur of light, energy, and reality bending in on itself. Then, as suddenly as it had started, everything stopped. The ship was calm again. The readings were stabilizing. The energy that had been pulling them in dissipated. "All loss of consciousness," Sarlo cried. "Is that possible?" "We made it," Yara said, breathing a sigh of relief. "We're through." Eva stared at the display, her breath caught in her throat. They had crossed into something entirely new. But what exactly? They were no longer in familiar space, but somewhere else, somewhere that no one, human or alien, had ever been before. "We did it," Eva whispered. "We're on the other side, and whatever's waiting for us, we'll face it. Together." She stood, looking at the vast unknown stretching out in front of them. There was no turning back now. The Sol Invictus and its crew were pioneers, moving forward into a new frontier that no one had ever dared explore. And humanity, as always, was leading the way. The Sol Invictus moved cautiously through the vast expanse that had opened before them. The energy from the distortion still lingered around them, like a faint hum in the background. The stars in the distance didn't seem quite right, their positions irregular, almost as though they were in a different arrangement than the one the crew was familiar with. The ship's sensors continued to flicker with strange data, warning of gravitational anomalies and energy fluctuations, but for now, the ship held steady. "Commander, this place is unlike anything we've ever seen," Yara said, her voice filled with awe. She was analyzing the new star system. "The stars aren't arranged in any recognizable pattern. The gravitational fields here are completely different. It's as if this system is a new model altogether. It's like we've entered another reality." Eva stood, staring at the holographic map in front of her. She had seen her fair share of strange systems, but this was something entirely different. This wasn't just a part of the universe that hadn't been explored. This was an unknown dimension, a separate reality, and the human race had just made its first steps into it. "We're not in the same place anymore," Eva said, her voice steady but with a touch of awe. "This is something other, something far beyond anything we've studied or understood." Her eyes flicked to the other members of the crew, who were all focused on the data, their faces a mixture of awe and cautious curiosity. Even Vorak, the Xylix, appeared impressed. It was rare to see the usually stoic engineer at a loss for words. "This place, it bends the very fabric of reality," Vorak murmured, more to himself than anyone else. "The energy here is unlike anything we know. It's alive in a way, like it's responding to us." "Alive?" Hassan echoed, stepping up beside Eva. "What do you mean by that?" Vorak turned toward them, his red eyes intense. "The energy is interacting with our systems as if it recognizes us, as if it wants us to understand." Eva considered his words carefully. They were in a completely foreign environment, yet the ship's systems and the crew's biology were adapting to the changes in strange ways. The anomaly wasn't just affecting their instruments. It was as though the very environment was aware of their presence. "We need to go deeper," Eva said, her voice resolute. "If this place is trying to communicate, we need to listen. Let's see what we can find. We didn't come all this way to back off now." As the ship moved forward, the surroundings seemed to change. The energy was no longer just a passive force. Now it flowed around the Sol Invictus, wrapping itself around the ship, almost like a protective shield. The walls of the dimension they had entered began to glow with pulsating light. It was as if the ship itself was being pulled into the very heart of the anomaly. "Commander, we're being drawn toward something," Yara said, her hands working swiftly over the console. "It's not just gravitational forces anymore. The ship's systems are responding as if we're being guided." Eva narrowed her eyes. "By what? By who?" "Look at this," Hassan said, his voice steady but filled with fascination. "It's as if the space-time fabric here is alive. It's manipulating us, not aggressively, but more like it's inviting us in." Eva took a deep breath. The feeling of being invited into something unknown was unsettling, but it wasn't fear that dominated her. It was a feeling of purpose, of the human drive to understand, to explore, and to conquer. The Sol Invictus approached what appeared to be the heart of the anomaly. A massive structure appeared ahead, larger than anything they had encountered before. It was impossible to describe its form, a hybrid of shapes and geometry that didn't belong to any known system. The structure pulsed with energy, as though it was breathing, growing, living in some unfathomable way. "Commander, this is it," Yara whispered, her voice reverent. "We're facing something that transcends everything we've known. This is beyond our comprehension." Eva stepped forward, looking out over the vast, glowing form. There was no fear in her heart, only a fierce determination. "Exercises. Whatever it is, we'll understand it. We always do," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "Humanity doesn't stop when the unknown arises. We embrace it." And with that, the Sol Invictus continued its approach, the ship now almost entirely surrounded by the energy of the anomaly. What lay ahead was still a mystery, but Eva knew that this moment would define everything to come. The humans aboard this ship would face whatever lay beyond, armed with the one thing no other species had, the will to adapt and conquer the impossible. As the Sol Invictus drew closer to the colossal structure at the heart of the anomaly, the crew could feel the shift in the ship's systems. The gravitational field had stabilized, but the energy surrounding the ship was now so intense that it seemed to hum, vibrating through the very core of the vessel. The crew members could feel the pulse of this strange force, and it was both unsettling and awe-inspiring at the same time. "Commander, the energy levels are off the charts," Yara reported, her fingers flying over the controls. "It's like the structure is alive, reacting to us. This is beyond anything we've encountered before." Eva stood tall, staring at the massive structure now looming before them. It was like nothing any human or any species had ever seen. The architecture was fluid, constantly shifting and changing shape, as if it were a living organism, growing and adapting. Lights danced along its surface, and strange symbols flashed and faded, almost like a code. "We don't have much time," Eva said, her voice calm but decisive. "We need to move in and gather as much data as possible. Prepare the probes. Let's see if we can find a way inside." The crew sprang into action. Vorak, his alien mind always calculating, worked with Yara to deploy the probes. They had no idea what lay ahead, but Eva trusted her crew. She had led them through impossible odds before, and today she would do it again. The probes were launched and they immediately began sending back data. The images they received were unlike anything they had ever seen. The structure itself was alive, but in a way that went beyond biology. It was a complex network of energy and matter, woven together like some kind of advanced, interdimensional organism. It was pulsating with energy, each pulse seemingly syncing with the ship's movements. Eva watched the data stream in. The structure wasn't just a place. It was a gateway, a portal to something greater. She could feel it, deep in her gut. This was the moment they had been waiting for. "Commander," Hassan called, his voice now serious. "We're seeing fluctuations in the biological feedback. The human systems are reacting differently here. This place, it's affecting us." Eva turned to him, her expression hardening with resolve. "We didn't come this far to turn back now. Whatever this is, we'll deal with it. Together." What? As the Sol Invictus continued its approach, the ship's systems suddenly experienced a surge of energy. The lights flickered, and the sound of humming filled the air as the anomaly's energy seemed to wrap itself around the ship like a cocoon. The crew braced themselves, but they knew they were too far in to turn back. There was no choice now but to move forward. "Commander, we're being drawn in," Yara said urgently. "The gravitational field is intensifying. If we don't adjust, we'll be pulled into the structure." Eva's heart raced, but her resolve was unshaken. "Adjust the course. We're not going to let it pull us in. We're going to enter on our own terms." She pushed. "Program confirmed." She stood at the front of the bridge, her crew working tirelessly to keep the ship steady. It was in these moments that Eva felt the true power of humanity. It wasn't their technology. It wasn't their superior weapons or knowledge. It was their ability to adapt, to face the unknown without fear, and to conquer whatever challenges came their way. "Keep steady," Eva instructed. "We're entering. This is what we were born for." As the Sol Invictus passed through the final layer of energy and entered the heart of the structure, a feeling of awe and wonder washed over the crew. The space inside was vast, far larger than the exterior had suggested. It felt like a cathedral, a place of worship or study, with towering columns of light stretching up to the unknown. The air was thick with energy, and the walls pulsed with an almost mystical rhythm. Eva looked around at her crew, their faces filled with a mixture of wonder and determination. This was the moment they had worked for, the moment humanity would stake its claim in the cosmos. "Welcome to the unknown," Eva said, her voice quiet but full of pride. "Let's make history." Minister Gao smiled. The crew continued to work together, adjusting to the strange new environment. The data they were gathering was like a beacon, guiding them forward into a future that had once seemed impossible. They were no longer just a species on the edge of the galaxy. They were pioneers, explorers, and they would push the boundaries of what the universe had to offer. And in that moment, Eva knew without a doubt that the future belonged to the humans. As the Sol Invictus continued its journey deeper into the colossal structure, The crew could feel the weight of their discovery settle on their shoulders. The vast chamber they had entered seemed endless, stretching far beyond the limits of their sensors. The walls, if they could even be called walls, pulsed with energy, glowing with intricate patterns that danced in and out of existence. The entire place felt alive, vibrating with a force that was at once familiar and entirely alien. "Commander," Yara said, her voice tinged with awe. "I've never seen anything like this. The energy levels are so high, but they're stable. The structure isn't just absorbing the energy, it's generating it." Eva stood at the front of the bridge, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the structure's interior. It wasn't just a building, it was a living entity. She could feel it. This place was watching them, studying them, maybe even communicating with them in ways they couldn't yet comprehend. "How are the systems holding up?" Eva asked, her voice firm, though she knew they were treading into uncharted territory. "We're holding steady," Vorak replied, his usual calm demeanor a bit shaken. "But I can't say for how long. The closer we get to the heart of the structure, the more we feel the effects. The ship's systems are responding to the structure in ways we can't explain." Eva nodded. She had expected this. The Sol Invictus had crossed dimensions before, but this was something different. This was an entity, a consciousness that had existed far beyond the reaches of anything humanity had ever encountered. And now, the ship and its crew were a part of it. "Let's keep pushing forward," Eva said, her voice calm but determined. "We need to understand what this is, what they want from us." "Commander," Hassan said, his voice laced with caution, "I've been monitoring our biological readings. The structure's energy is interacting with our bodies. The effects are subtle, but they're there. It's altering us in a way. The question is this change temporary or permanent?" Eva looked at him. "We'll deal with that when the time comes. We've faced worse before, Hassan. We're humans. We adapt." But even Eva couldn't shake the feeling that this was different. The humans aboard the Sol Invictus were not just in a new galaxy or even a new dimension. They were inside a living, breathing entity, and whatever came next would change everything. As they moved deeper into the structure, they encountered more of the energy patterns that had first captured their attention. The walls seemed to reach out, pulling at the ship, trying to connect with it in ways that were beyond human understanding. The ship's systems were responding as if the Sol Invictus itself were becoming part of the structure, integrated into its very being. "Commander," Yara said, her voice tense, "the ship is starting to resonate with the structure. I'm detecting fluctuations in the space-time fabric around us. If we don't make adjustments, we could lose control." Eva's eyes narrowed. She could feel it too now. The entire ship was vibrating, pulsing in time with the entity that surrounded them. The air was thick with power, and she knew that they were at a precipice. They had crossed into the unknown, but now the true test had begun. The Sol Invictus was becoming more than just a ship. It was becoming a part of something far larger. "Prepare the systems for maximum energy output," Eva ordered. "We can't afford to lose control now. We have to push through. We didn't come this far to fail." Yara's hands flew over the controls, adjusting the ship's power levels, trying to keep the systems from spiraling out of control. Vorak helped recalibrate the ship's engines, while Hassan monitored the crew's biological responses. The tension was palpable, but there was no turning back. The human spirit wasn't made for retreat, not in the face of something as monumental as this. "We're almost there," Eva said, her voice filled with certainty. "Whatever happens next, we face it together. We'll conquer this, just as we've conquered everything else." The ship moved deeper into the heart of the structure, the energy wrapping around them like an embrace. For a moment, it felt as though time itself had stopped. The Sol Invictus was no longer just a vessel. It was part of a cosmic force, and the humans aboard it were about to make history. Not just as explorers, but as the species that embraced the unknown and made it their own. The deeper the Sol Invictus moved into the structure, the more intense the sensations became. It was as if they were being drawn into the very heart of the entity itself. The energy surrounding them was no longer just a field or a force. It was conscious, it was aware, and it was reacting to the humans aboard the ship. "Commander, I'm detecting something," Yara said, her voice strained. "The energy around us is beginning to shift. It's like the entire structure is alive, and it's responding to our presence. The readings are fluctuating faster now, and the ship's systems are being affected." Eva stood up, her eyes locked on the display. She had never encountered anything like this before. This wasn't just a foreign system or a powerful alien civilization. This was an entity, a cosmic being that had existed for who knows how long, far beyond the reach of any human understanding. And it was responding to them. "How is the ship holding up?" Eva asked, her voice steady. "We're doing our best to keep the systems stable, but it's becoming harder to maintain equilibrium," Vorik replied. "The structure is interacting with the ship at a fundamental level. I can't control it fully. It's like the ship and the entity are merging in some way." Eva felt a chill run down her spine. The Sol Invictus was becoming a part of something far larger than anything they had ever imagined. They were not just exploring an alien structure. They were inside a living, breathing being, and somehow the very fabric of the ship was being intertwined with it. "Commander, the biological readings are becoming increasingly unusual," Hassan added, his voice tense. "The crew is showing signs of adjustment, but we don't fully understand the effects yet. I'm seeing neurological patterns that suggest, well, that we are being altered in ways we can't predict." Eva took a deep breath, her mind racing. This was more than just exploration. This was a test of humanity's very survival. But the humans aboard the Sol Invictus had faced tests before, and they had always risen to the challenge. A test. "We'll adapt," Eva said, her voice unwavering. "Humans are survivors. Whatever this entity is doing to us, we'll handle it." As if to prove her point, the entire ship suddenly shuddered. A wave of energy swept through the structure, and for a brief moment, everything around them seemed to blur. Time itself seemed to bend, as if they were no longer moving through space as they knew it, but through something far more complex, more fluid. "Commander, we're being pulled toward the center," Yara said, her hands working furiously at the controls. "There's no stopping it. We can't fight this force." Eva felt the ship's systems vibrating beneath her feet, as if they were being forced along by an unseen hand. But instead of fear, she felt something else: curiosity. They were on the brink of an unprecedented discovery, and nothing would make her back down. "Stay on course," Eva ordered. "If we're being pulled in, let's see where it leads. We're not backing away from this." The ship continued its inexorable journey toward the center of the structure. The walls, if they could even be called walls, seemed to part before them, revealing an enormous circular chamber that stretched beyond the limits of the ship's sensors. In the center, a massive orb of energy pulsed, radiating light so bright that it filled the entire chamber. Surprisingly enough, the entire chamber seemed to reverse. "This is it," Eva said, her voice filled with awe. "The heart of this entity." The Sol Invictus was now surrounded by an energy field so intense it felt like the very core of the universe. It was both terrifying and mesmerizing. The entity had led them here. It had chosen them, and now they were about to find out why. "Commander, I think we've reached the point of no return," Vorak said, his voice tinged with a sense of disbelief. "The energy, it's beyond anything we've ever encountered. I don't know how much longer we can maintain control." Where? Vorak said. Eva glanced at her crew. They were all in this together, and as always, they would face whatever came next. They would adapt, they would survive, and they would understand. "Let's make history," Eva said, her voice filled with pride and determination. "The universe will remember us. Humans do not run from the unknown. We face it." The Sol Invictus moved toward the orb, and as they approached, the entire structure seemed to resonate. The walls shimmered, and the energy surrounding them seemed to converge on the ship, as if drawing them into the very heart of the mystery. The crew braced themselves, ready for whatever came next. They were about to unlock the secrets of the universe itself. And in that moment, Eva knew that humanity was no longer just a species on the edge of the galaxy. They were part of it all. And nothing, no force, no entity, no mystery could ever take that away. As the Sol Invictus moved closer to the massive orb at the center of the structure, a profound silence descended on the crew. The ship's systems hummed with energy, their readings erratic but intense. The walls of the chamber seemed to pulse, almost like a heartbeat, as though the very structure was alive, responding to their presence. The air was thick with energy, and the hum was starting to resonate deep within the bones of everyone aboard. "Commander," Yara said, her voice almost a whisper. This energy, it's not just around us anymore. It's inside us. The walls, the air, everything is vibrating with it. We're becoming part of it." Eva stood at the front of the bridge, her eyes fixed on the orb that hovered in the center of the vast chamber. Its light was bright, almost blinding, yet Eva couldn't look away. It felt as though it was calling them, drawing them in. The energy was familiar, yet strange, almost like something ancient, like a long-forgotten memory buried deep in humanity's collective consciousness. "We've crossed the point of no return," Eva said softly, though her voice remained steady. "But we're not going back. Not now. This is our moment." The rest of the team set about repairs. Carmine finally forced a smile on his face. He admitted, "Commander, the energy readings are fluctuating wildly. I'm not sure how much longer we can withstand this," Vorak said, his voice tinged with concern. His hands hovered over the controls, trying to maintain the ship's stability. "I've never seen anything like this. It's as if the ship itself is becoming part of the structure." Eva didn't flinch. "We adapt, always. We've survived worse, Vorak. This isn't the end. It's the beginning. It's the beginning." Gilbert pondered while carrying the family downstairs and into the dining room. Hassan, who had been monitoring the crew's biological responses, spoke up. "The crew is experiencing physiological changes. It's subtle, but it's there. The ship's energy is beginning to interact with our nervous systems, and it's starting to alter our cognitive functions." Eva turned to him, her expression unwavering. "What kind of changes?" Hassan hesitated. "It's hard to say, but we're being influenced, directed, almost like the energy is trying to communicate with us directly through our minds." "Then let it communicate," Eva replied firmly. "Humans don't shy away from the unknown. We understand, we learn, and we adapt. We'll hear what it has to say." The orb's light intensified, filling the chamber with a blinding glow. The ship's hull seemed to vibrate as if resonating with the energy. And then, in a sudden, powerful surge, the entire ship was enveloped in light. It wasn't an explosion, nor a violent shock. It was as though the Sol Invictus had entered a new dimension, where space and time didn't follow the rules they had known. The crew held their breath, their senses overloaded by the sudden change. The energy had woven its way into their minds, into their very souls, and the ship was no longer just a vessel. It was part of something greater. The light began to fade, and Eva slowly opened her eyes. They were no longer in the structure, or at least not in the way they had been before. The chamber was gone. The vast expanse of the entity that had once surrounded them had shifted into something new. Something they couldn't quite comprehend. "Commander, I don't understand," Yara said, her voice strained. "We're still inside, but everything's changed. The ship, the space around us, it's like we've entered a new plane of existence." Eva scanned the new surroundings. The ship was still intact, but the chamber they had been in was no longer there. Instead, the crew found themselves in a vast expanse. Stars twinkled around them, but not in any formation they had seen before. It was like the universe had been remade, reshaped by the entity they had encountered. A voice, calm and resonant, filled the bridge, though there were no speakers. It was as though it was being spoken directly into their minds. "Welcome, travelers. You are the first of your kind to reach this place. You have crossed the threshold. And now, you are ready." The crew froze, their hearts racing. The voice, though not spoken aloud, reverberated within them all. Eva felt a sense of immense responsibility settle in her chest. The energy was communicating with them. It wasn't just observing them, it was acknowledging them, and the implications of this were staggering. "Ready for what?" Eva asked, her voice steady, though inside she felt the weight of the moment. They had reached the heart of the unknown, and now the true test had begun. The voice responded, this time with an edge of understanding, almost as if it were smiling at their curiosity. "Ready to understand, to evolve, to become more than you were. You have the potential to be more than your species can even comprehend. But this is but the beginning, and try as we might, we cannot stop the future, can we?" Eva's heart raced. They weren't just being tested, they were being invited into something greater. This entity, this force, was offering them a chance to transcend. It wasn't about survival anymore, it was about ascension. The voice echoed once more. "You are human, and that is why you are here. Your journey has just begun." Eva looked at her crew, her expression one of resolve. They had entered this structure seeking answers, seeking knowledge. But now, they had been given something much more profound. "Then let's begin," Eva said, her voice firm and confident. "Let's see where this path leads. We didn't come this far to stop now." Okay. The light surrounding the Sol Invictus dimmed as the crew processed the last words from the entity. The vast expanse around them had shifted again, and the reality they had known seemed to slip away. They were no longer in the same universe. What they were experiencing now was beyond comprehension, and yet, Eva felt something within her stir. A call to embrace the unknown. "We've crossed into something new," Eva said, her voice calm yet filled with awe. "The laws of physics we know don't apply here. What we once thought was reality, it's been redefined." "Commander," Yara said, her hand shaking slightly as she checked the ship's systems. "The ship is stable, but we're receiving readings from every direction. It's like the fabric of space itself is warping around us. I can't make sense of it." Vorik, his usually stoic demeanor showing cracks of uncertainty, glanced at the data. "The readings are inconsistent. It's as if space-time is expanding and contracting. I'm not sure how we're holding together." Eva nodded. She knew they were no longer in the realm of scientific understanding. Whatever this place was, it was alive, and they were part of it. The entity had made it clear that they weren't just visitors anymore. They had been chosen. "What does the entity want from us?" Hassan asked, his voice filled with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Eva looked at him, then at her crew. "I think it's not about what it wants from us. It's about what we're capable of understanding. We've been given a chance to evolve, to go beyond what we've known. But only if we're ready." As she spoke, the walls of the new reality shifted again, opening up like doors to an immense library of light. The projections of distant stars, galaxies, and complex patterns filled the space. Each image seemed to pulse, sending waves of energy through the ship, through the crew. "We're being shown something," Eva whispered. "We need to understand it. Whatever this is, we need to embrace it." A voice, calm yet profound, echoed again through their minds. "You have traveled far, humans. You have crossed the boundaries of your universe and entered a space beyond the reach of your kind. You are at the threshold of something greater." Eva looked at her crew, their eyes wide, filled with the same mix of wonder and fear. This was the moment. They were standing on the brink of a new reality, not just a new frontier in space, but a new understanding of existence itself. "You have the potential to evolve," the voice continued, "to see beyond what you have known. You are not limited to the physical. You are capable of perceiving what lies beyond. But first, you must open your minds to what lies hidden." Hassan, still processing the implications of what they were hearing, stepped forward. "We've been given the chance to evolve, but we don't even know how. How do we open our minds to what lies beyond?" The voice responded almost instantly. "You will show us. Your willingness to understand, to embrace the unknown, that is what will unlock the next phase." Eva felt a pulse within her, a surge of energy that resonated deep within her being. She realized then that it wasn't just the ship that was affected by the energy. It was them, the humans aboard the Sol Invictus. Their minds were being opened to something beyond their comprehension. "We're not just here to explore," Eva said, a realization dawning on her. "We're here to transcend. This isn't about survival anymore. This is about understanding something much, much greater than ourselves." She turned to the crew. "We need to adapt. We need to trust that whatever comes next, we will face it together." "Kava, dear Fike." The light around them intensified again, and the walls seemed to pulse faster, like a heartbeat accelerating. The energy was building, and the space around them was becoming more alive, more vibrant, as though the entity was eager for them to take the next step. Suddenly a vision appeared in front of them, a complex series of patterns and equations floating in the air. It was as if the very structure of the universe was unfolding before them, revealing the secrets of time, space, and existence itself. Is this what we need to understand?" Yara asked, her voice filled with awe. Eva stepped forward, her mind working faster than ever before. The symbols in front of them were unlike anything they had seen, but she knew, deep down, that this was the key. The entity was showing them the very foundation of the universe, the building blocks of reality. "This is it," Eva said, her voice firm with determination. "We're being shown the truth, and we're going to understand it." She reached out, her hand brushing the holographic symbols, and as her fingers made contact, a surge of energy flowed through her, a burst of knowledge unlike anything she had ever experienced. In that moment, Eva understood. They weren't just human anymore. They were part of something much bigger. The universe, the entity, and their place within it all had just been revealed to them. The ship vibrated once again, and the voice echoed one final time. "You are ready. Now, you are not just visitors, you are part of the universe itself." Eva looked at her crew, and for the first time she felt as if they were truly free. Not just free to explore, but free to become something more. "Let's move forward," Eva said, a new light in her eyes. "Together we will unlock the secrets of the universe." And with that, the Sol Invictus moved forward into the unknown, no longer just a ship, but a vessel for the future of humanity. The energy around the Sol Invictus intensified once more as the crew moved deeper into the heart of the entity. The ship no longer felt like a machine, but a part of something far greater. It was as though they had crossed a threshold that no other species had ever crossed before. They were no longer just explorers. They were participants in something beyond their understanding, something that had been waiting for them. Eva stood at the helm, her eyes fixed on the display in front of her. The holographic symbols from earlier had become clearer now. They were more than just patterns or equations. They were instructions, a guide to a new way of being. It wasn't just about knowledge, it was about transformation. "Commander, I'm seeing something," Yara said, her voice trembling with excitement. "The structure, it's changing, it's adjusting to our presence. It's like it's evolving, just like we are." Eva nodded. The entity was guiding them, not through words, but through energy, through knowledge. Everything was changing, and they were changing with it. The Sol Invictus was no longer just a ship. It was a conduit for the transformation of humanity. "We're not just observing anymore," Eva said, her voice filled with awe. "We're part of this. We're becoming something else." Hassan stepped up beside her, looking at the data flowing in from the ship's systems. "I don't know how to explain it, but I can feel it. The ship, the crew, we're all connected to this energy. It's like it's inside us now." The holographic symbols began to shift, becoming even more complex, more fluid. It was as if the very fabric of reality was being woven into something new, something alive. It wasn't just the universe they were being shown anymore. It was the future. Their future. Breathtakingly beautiful, however distant it might be. "What happens next?" Hassan asked, his voice tinged with anticipation. Eva turned to face him, her eyes bright with purpose. "We make it happen. We take what we've learned and we use it. We'll evolve. Humanity will no longer just be a species on the fringe of the galaxy. We will be part of something greater." As she spoke, the energy around the Sol Invictus swelled, enveloping the ship completely. The light from the entity became all-encompassing, and Eva could feel it deep within her. She wasn't just experiencing this with her senses. She was experiencing it with her soul. The voice from the entity spoke again, filling their minds with its calm, resonant tone. "You have learned. You have evolved. Now you are ready to embrace your place in the universe. You will not be the last. Others will follow. But for now, you are the first." The ship trembled once more, but this time it wasn't with fear. It was with purpose. They were not just humans anymore. They were part of the universe, part of something larger than any of them could have imagined. "How do we move forward?" Yara asked, her voice almost reverent. Eva looked around at her crew, the people who had stood by her side through it all. They had faced the unknown, the impossible, and had come out the other side. And now they were ready for whatever the future held. "We move forward as we always do," Eva said, her voice steady with certainty. "Together. We adapt. We learn. We become. The universe has shown us the way. Now it's time for us to lead." With that, the Sol Invictus set its course, no longer just a ship, but a vessel for the future of humanity. They weren't just voyaging into the unknown. They were becoming part of the next step in the evolution of life, the next step in the cosmic journey. The entity had opened the door to a new era, Now it was time for humanity to walk through it.